Season 2's been out for a few days now, and honestly, this seems like it's saved Chapter 5, except for one thing which we'll get to later, but as for now, this is my Chapter 5 Season 2 initial review. Before we get into the actual season, I want to talk about the build-up, because we haven't seen this good of season build-up since like Chapter 1. I think if it wasn't for this mini event, Season 2's delay would have went a lot worse in terms of hate from the community. Even though the hand didn't show up at the time we thought, this was still an awesome event. I mean, having a giant hand burst out of the ground to deliver a box in which where we, the community, have to open it is one amazing way of bringing community involvement back to the game, which I've always said needs to come back. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, it's time for the actual season. I like to break it down into 3 categories: the map, the loot pool, and the content. And now the map. I mean, just look at this.
Someone cooked here.
From the visuals to the atmosphere, not the gameplay, it all just fits together so well. A big complaint of mine from Chapter 5 is that the map felt soulless, the colors were muted, the terrain was boring, and the biomes were generic. But this season has fixed all that. The 2 new biomes are really fun, especially in gameplay. I know I just made that comment like 10 seconds ago, but that was more directed to the POIs, which I'll get to in a second. Back to glazing. The underworld biome might be my favorite biome ever added to the game. The eerie atmosphere mixed with the insane mobility from the soul rivers just makes me want to drop here every time. The only complaint I have is that apart from the 2 POIs, there isn't really anywhere else to land here that's a viable drop spot, but it's not that big a deal. As for the Olympus biome, again, bonus points for being unique, instead of just the same old desert snowy jungle Epic seems to be spoon feeding us. The main highlight is the statue, which I'll talk more in depth with when I talk about the POIs. As for the rest, I find this biome really fun to fight in. Because of the giant hill, the lower areas are very open, reminding me of OG Fortnite. And this also means that there's actual use of the building mechanic, instead of just running into trees like last season. And now for what this season doesn't do that well, POIs. Now hold on, visually these might be the best locations we've ever had, but in terms of gameplay, it's just not there. I'm sure if you're a zero build player, you'd have a slightly better time, but for me, the locations are just too open. Off spawn, you're just gonna get beamed while looting up. Now you immediately just thought you play builds. Build. Well, there's 2 issues with that. 1, there's nowhere to build. You notice this mostly in the underworld POIs. There are these weird corridors, hallways, these arches. You can't place walls there, only a stair, which means you need to run into the open, risk getting shot, to then box up. Not that you'd want to. Also, the roofs suck. 2, there's no mats. This is an issue with all the new locations. Because they're so open, there aren't any mats to farm, and anything that is farmable is not worth it. But these are just general issues. People have been begging me for longer videos, so I want to take a look at every POI, starting with Grim Gate. Aesthetically, this might be my favorite in the underworld. I like how it's basically a gate which blocks the river straight to the underworld, and that this is kind of the entrance to the underworld, being the first thing you see when you enter the biome. Now all you freaking Greek mythology people in the comments can be like, because that actually is what it is in Greek mythology. Cerberus is supposed to be the protector of the underworld. Yeah, I know that. Google, help me. But I don't know, I thought it was cool that they added that. But enough nerdy stuff, let's talk about why it sucks to fight in. One of the major complaints was the arches. Luckily, this place has 80% of them. And it means you can't place walls, so you're basically praying that no one sees you when looting up. And all the prior issues I listed still apply to Grimgate. The one good thing about the gameplay is the bosses. A solid fun fight, which isn't just spraying a bullet sponge surrounded by 1,000 AIs. I actually do like that they gave Cerberus Wolverine's ability all the way from Chapter 2 Season 4, as it turns the fight into something more than a spray off. The rewards from this boss fight do make the painstaking design of this place somewhat worth it, because in my opinion, Cerberus has the best medallion, but that's for another video. Now the underworld has a lot of the same problems as Grimgate. Too open, no mats, and half the lobby. These things don't mix. I don't blame these people, I mean it's a siphon medallion, but holy, half the lobby lands here. By the time you finish clearing this place, the guy from Grimgates is already here to third party you. Visually, the underworld, just like everywhere else, is awesome. It really feels like the capital of the underworld, as it is. But that won't save you. At least this place is better in terms of being able to actually build in the POI, but it gets cancelled out by having nothing to farm except rocks outside the location. The boss fight is cool. Giving each boss a special ability is nice so they each feel unique, but the real highlight of this place is the siphon medallion. People have been begging for this since day 1 of its removal, and I can't wait to see how contested it is for FNCS. Switching biomes, we have Mount Olympus, and wow, this creative director surely knows how to make a good-looking POI. This statue is just insane. The atmosphere it provides to the biome is great. The way it towers over Mount Olympus just adds that extra spice. This might be the best POI visually we've ever had, which automatically puts it at a 7 or higher. I mean, just look at this light that shines down from the heavens that you can see all the way from Spawn Island. Though even if it looks awesome, is the gameplay there? Well, out of the 4.5 new locations we got, this one is the best. So kinda. It still suffers from being too open, but there's a decent amount of mats to farm, and surprisingly, it's not too contested. Not to mention the medallion isn't bad, and the boss fight's enjoyable. If you're wondering what that half was in the new locations, Ruin Reels got restored, so that's that. I'm not gonna talk about it. Moving on to our final place. I don't even remember. See, this is one of the issues I said in my Chapter 5 initial review. POI names are just forgettable. I'm not gonna look it up for the sake of proving my point, so I'm just gonna take a guess. Broken Battleground. Editing, tell me if I was right. One of Chapter 5's major issues was that the locations felt pretty similar and didn't really have a purpose. And no, I'm not gonna say the same thing about this place. I actually think Broken Battleground, or whatever it is a really unique POI. It's the home of the Ares boss and is littered with axes, spears, arrows, and swords, something that you'd find when going to the home of the God of War. It just feels like all the things here fit. Fortunately, this place actually suffers the least from all the complaints I had. It's not too open, and it still provides a solid fighting ground with decent materials. And it has the best mythic. Unfortunately, it also has the worst medallion, so an eye for an eye. That leaves me to rank the map, and it improved on everything, so an 8 out of 10. This is worse than my Chapter 5 Season 1 initial review, but honestly, I think most of the praise was just recency bias, because right now she's sitting at like a 6 out of 10 for me. Okay, looking at the length of this vid, it's gonna be a doozy, so maybe I can speedrun the loophole a little bit. First off, the complaints. Why is the frenzy still in the game? The new shotgun's good, a little inconsistent, would like an extra bullet, but that don't matter, cause this thing's still in the loophole. And the sniper, I was glazing that at the start of Chapter 5 Season 1, now I hate it. I'm tired of getting headshot sniped by some kid who's worse than me. Was that a smart peek? No. Am I still mad? Yes. We had a good sniper meta, okay? Now remove it. The striker and the hyper were removed and replaced with arguably better weapons, even though they serve the same purpose. The SMG with the right attachments can beam people, and the AR is just like the striker but better. Good SMG, crazy at medium range, unusable at long range. So what did they do? They added a DMR. So let's just throw that in the pile of unusable garbage that is the DMRs and wait, it's actually good? Yeah, you know what it is. However, it's still kinda pointless because this is in the game. It's the same outcome every time. You shoot him, he builds, you either have a shootout or key. I know this DMR has a faster fire rate than the sniper, but it's not fast enough to get 2 shots in before they build. So I always say, why hit them for 70 when you can hit them for 110? Wings. This might be the best rotational item ever added to the game. I say might because there are like a few more, but the wings serve their purpose flawlessly. Rotation. It's not a get out of jail free card like other rotation items. The wings are really good at getting you where you need to go while running the risk of getting shot out of the sky. Speaking of that, this is the reason I hold the wings on such a high pedestal. You can't run away with them. You can try, but if you are even remotely low, you're gonna get beamed. And yeah, I'll talk about Zeus. I think it's the most balanced item ever added to the game. No nerfs needed whatsoever. Yeah, not a chance. This is busted. What Epic needs to do is nerf the spawn rate, increase the cooldown, and a few other things like, oh, it can go through walls. Get tagged for 110, build a fully metal box? Yeah, that Zeus will go right through it. Having a build fight? Oh, what's that, a third party from across the map with a Zeus mythic? Oh yeah, did I mention it has that kind of range? Add that to the list of things that need a nerf. As a man who reached Unreal last season and has already played a ton of ranked this season, why don't you just take it out of ranked? It doesn't need to be there. And if there's some kid who's only good in ranked with a Zeus mythic, he shouldn't be playing ranked. For the people in the comments saying, I just beam them when they try to use it on me. That's not the broken part. It's when you're on 1 HP boxed up in a fully built metal box and Jimmy from 100 meters away one-shots you through that fully built metal box. For this reason alone, Loophole's like a 6 out of 10 because everything else is fun except those 3 items. And if you're wondering why it's 6 and not a 7, it's because there's also a bit of a spray meta. It's just overused, so I'm not going to complain about it. But yeah, no, a bit of a spraying. I'll bump it up to a 6.5. Loophole's a 6.5 out of 10. Content. I already talked about bosses, but haven't talked too much about medallions, so I'll start there. And I gotta say, it's a crazy step up. Before it was you land at what mythic you want and get a medallion as a bonus. Now it's the other way around. I like how the medallions actually serve a purpose instead of just, oh, here's more health. And that's all I really have to say. I don't really know what else to add, so I'm gonna do a little battle pass review. I've seen people complaining about the Greek gods theme, and it's like, what do you want? An original battle pass filled with good skins, or a collab filled pass with only filler skins? Getting all the furry comments out of the way, Cerberus is a cool looking skin. It's the most requested survey skin and has some pretty nice styles. I personally wouldn't wear it, but for a tier 1 skin, this is very good. Aphrodite got a huge downgrade from what her survey skin was supposed to be, which I don't know why. Mid skin. Poseidon is top 3 in the battle pass. Some people wanted the real one. I think this is awesome. Medusa is mid. I'd rather have Ares, but the emote's nice. Zeus is a nice skin. I'd wear him now and then. I love the fact that he's got grenades on his side. Artemis is honestly better than I thought she was gonna be. I might rock her sometimes. And Hades is a solid tier 100 skin. I wouldn't wear him, but it's better than last season. I don't really like the gas mask though. It's just weird. I'm not mentioning the secret skin. I don't watch anime. So the content, or really just the battle pass, is a 7.5 out of 10. Not much to complain about. So to answer the title's question, I do think that this is one of the best seasons in years, and it's really saved Chapter 5. So to rank Chapter 5 Season 2 initially, it's a solid 8.8 out of 10. But they could always sell it, so